Welcome to welding. My name is Tom and I'll be walking you guys through all the procedures and information necessary to execute welding in this lab. We're going to start, namely, with the big word of the day, which is safety. Safety is comprised of pretty much one thing and one thing alone, and that is radiation. Radiation takes form of two ways, heat and light. So the general rule of thumb is don't touch it with bare hands, don't look at it with bare eyes. To do that, we'll be using Miller hoods as well as good welding gloves. Stick with these and you'll pretty much be good for the entirety of the lab. There is one other note though, and that is spackle. Spackle is the hot metal that pops off the weld, and it's best not to wear polyester shirts. Polyester shirts tend to melt and stick to your skin, and it's not fun and it's very painful. So if you're wearing polyester, don't. Come to lab with no polyester. Cotton is resistant, and so you might get like a hole or two if it's like you're really getting in the weld, but otherwise cotton should be more than safe. And if you do happen to only have polyester, we do have lab coats for you that you can wear for the lab. The last safety bit is one that's not generally talked about in welding, and that is gas. We are using a form of argon gas, which is a grade 1 carcinogen recognized by the FDA. So to that end, if you ever weld on your own, or if you're considering taking up welding as a profession, always make sure that you are in a ventilated space. Today, we will be welding outside to take care of that problem. We will start at the front here. A welder works by taking electricity and moving it at such high current that it creates an arc, and that arc fuses metal together. Now, if you've taken any basic electronics course, you'll know that there's positive, negative, that negative being your ground. And so when you have wire coming out of your gun, this is positive. This end is positive. Then it's going to go through your metal, your material, and then it's going to go into your ground. And so one of the other important safety tips that's good to know is that this ground is essential to making a good weld. If you do not connect your ground and you start welding, the electrons are going to go wherever they please, and that can go into you, into your surface, into your machine, and it's never good. So when you weld, always make sure your ground is clamped onto your material. Now, with that electronic circuit, we have a feed. Coming out of the front of this gun is wire. This wire is going to shoot out the front of the gun when I pull the trigger. The other thing that's coming out of the front of this gun is gas. And that gas is argon, like I mentioned earlier. So you are adding material as you are welding. So when you set up, you're going to need power. This is a 120 volt circuit, so it'll hook into any wall outlet, but it does need a high amperage cable. So you have a big, thick amperage cable. You're going to need your gas, and your gas is connected to this line and into the back of the system. When you first set up, and this will all be done for you for the lab, you're going to want to turn this valve to open it. And then you're going to take your flow controls and adjust them until we get to about anywhere between 25 and 35 CFH, which, for this purposes of this lab, we'll just shoot for 30. So make sure we adjust it to get a roughly 30. Now, a lot of these machines will come with their own set of specs. These specs will just be for what material you're welding, the thickness, and then it recommends what wire speed and gauge settings that you should have to weld on it properly. Today, We will be welding on 14 gauge and 16 gauge steel. This is a MIG system, therefore the vast majority of the welding you will be doing with these machines is on steel. Welding aluminum and other such metals will require other machines, which we are not going to go into today. But there is a huge world of welding, lots of different machines, techniques, but today we are focusing on just MIG. When we set up, we're going to look at our settings. Once we have gas, power, and all those other components, we're going to start looking at how much power to give our material. Now, most machines will give two dials, one for voltage and one for amperage. Now, on most machines, that amperage value is directly proportional to the wire speed. So they will be labeled as such. And so our wire speed controls our amperage, and our voltage is our voltage. Today, we're using automatic settings. You can change that to dial in if you really want to. But today, we're going to stick with the automatic settings. For 14 gauge steel, we will be operating at 16 gauge if you're doing flat lines and practice on your 16 gauge. However, when we do our floating corner joint for the actual box, due to the nature of the joint and that it gets infinitely thin until there's no material, we will have to dial back our amperage way, way back. So the machine is operating much colder than it normally would be. But for now, we're going to leave it at 14 gauge for the purposes of this demonstration. Today, we are going to be welding with a couple different techniques. You will choose whichever one is comfortable for you. I prefer little C's. Something like that. There's also zigzag pattern. And then there's line pattern. All of these are decent techniques to use on your welds. There's also dozens more like circular patterns and figure 8 patterns that you can do, but today we are going to keep it very simple and straight. 3 techniques. These should help you also get straight lines because that's what we're doing today. Speaking of what we're doing today, let's talk about the kinds of joints we'll be looking at. There are 4 major joints. Butt joints are where 2 pieces of metal come together. Lap joints are where two plates come together and overlap. T-joints are where 2 plates come together and form a T or some sort of perpendicular cross section. And then corner joints is when 2 edges of metal come together at the corner. Today, your boxes will be focusing on the corner joint. So when we execute our welds, we will be looking for corner joints. However, the box itself is going to use a floating corner joint, which I'll get into later. All right, so we're going to go over how to set up a mask. There are 3 general settings: your sensitivity, your shade, and your delay. These masks in particular are the Miller masks, and they have 3 modes. You're going to want to make sure you're set to your welding mode, the blue light there on the top. And then while this is still on, while the green lights are on, we're going to adjust our shade. Now, I like to have it around 9, and this is because I like to see what I'm doing. If you're working with really, really high amperage things, or if you're outside, you're going to want to make sure that's a higher setting. But for these, 9 should be fine. And if we go to our delay, this will be how quickly the hood dims once it sees the arc. I'm going to want that to be pretty low too, so I'm going to have that at 8. And then the final setting, and this one is the one that gets most people, is the sensitivity. We're going to have that set to 9 or 10. I'm going to recommend 10 for this video. The sensitivity is really important to get right because it's really easy to have it not detect because you have it not sensitive enough. And if you have it too sensitive, you'll just look outside and it will always be dark. So if you want your hood to be functioning correctly, make sure that your settings are appropriate to your location. We can begin our welding session. So, lab safety requires that we always wear our safety glasses. If you're already wearing eyeglasses, that is totally fine. You do not have to triple layer. Next is our gloves. Make sure the machine is on, closed, and ready to rock. We are at the 14 gauge setting. My ground cable is connected. This gun is live. And the next, or rather final safety thing for all welding is always call your shots. Whenever you begin welding, call it. I'm gonna go for the seize technique, like I showed you earlier. And this is the technique I recommend for any floating corner joint. This will allow us to make a sweeping transitory motion that will prevent weld from your gun from poking through the gaps in a weld. But we'll get into that later. For now, we're gonna angle our gun, get nice and comfortable. The key to good welding is comfort, because you need to be consistent. So when you set up, make sure that you are able to angle your gun properly. I like to aim for any angle between 20 and 45 degrees. And I'm gonna use a pull technique. You can push, and if you're a lefty, you're gonna do everything what I'm doing, but opposite. But I'm gonna pull left to right using a C motion. Something like that. I'm gonna get nice and close. Since I have nice thick gloves, I will resist the heat. So I will get nice and close, up on top. And whenever I'm feeling comfortable after a dry run, I will throw down my hood and yell, welding, like I will do now. Get myself nice and set up. 3, 2, 1, welding. Now, as you can see, it's a little hard to see when you're actually going, but got a little diagonal there. But that is what a nice even weld should look like. Now there's 3 welding speeds. There's too fast, just right, and too slow. Let me show you what too fast looks like. 3, 2, 1, welding. When you're too fast, you can see the thickness of the bead shrink. Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go too slow. 3, 2, 1, welding. As you can see, The bead is far wider than my previous two, and I had a little bit of over penetration. So this bottom line here was from me slowing down and the metal just melted straight through my material, which is sometimes ideal, but for the purposes of today is not, since your metal is so thin. During the lab, we're gonna go through 5 different welds. You're gonna give me 5 beads, and then you're gonna do 1 joint, and then you're going to finish with your box. You may take more time than is given to you to complete these tasks and to practice, but that is the best way to learn welding generally, is just by practicing. Practice, practice, practice. Even me, I'm still pointing out little mistakes in my welds, and that will take us to the, one of the final sections. We are going to talk about weld defects. Weld defects are something that occur pretty much every time you weld. When you're starting out, there's almost zero chance you can avoid them. The main 3 that we will be looking for in our lab is undercut, underfilled, and burn through. Underfilled is when there's not enough material in your weld. Undercut is when you have melted your material. You are too hot. And then burn through is when you have melted your material so badly that you punch right through your material. Similar to what we see here. A weld began very hot, and then it punched right through. So let's run through the proper speed again. Correct speed. We're gonna make sure I'm grounded. Workspace is set, I'm comfortable. And then I'm gonna call my weld in 3, 2, 1, welding. And so we get a good thickness of our bead, and a consistent pattern. Last couple notes here. In addition to your welding angle, which is this right here, you will generally set wherever you're comfortable, between 20 and 45 degrees. However, welding height is also important. If you are too close to your material, as in pressed against it, you can potentially fuse the end of your wire to the top of the nozzle, which isn't gonna break it. Again, it's copper on steel, so it will, it'll stick like a little bit, but you can usually just pry it off. However, it's not recommended, and you can't really see what you're doing if you're too close. So generally, I recommend being between 1 centimeter, at furthest like 1.5 centimeters, but not within 0.5 centimeter. And then when you're too far, like 1 inch away or further, the wire has to travel a long way to get to the material, and the gas that is trying to cover the arc can't reach because, well, there's atmosphere and wind and all sorts of other particles interfering. You only get a good arc when the argon is making good connection with your steel. That is also another kind of welding defect, is porosity, where you get a bunch of little patchy holes from a poor connection. Now, when you're welding, I would recommend being about here as you move across. And even though my wire isn't touching, as soon as I pull that trigger, it will extend to meet the material. And now some final notes on the welder itself. We're gonna shut off here. We're gonna have a couple tools on hand when we weld, namely the gun itself. Got a glove up here, so it's just welding with it. Now, generally before you start welding or after you're welding, you're gonna want to take off your tip here. which just unscrews. This is your welding shield, or your cone. There's a couple of different words for it. And you see, after I've welded, get that focus, there's a lot of spackle and leftovers from my weld. Now, this is steel, the spackle is steel, but the shield is copper, meaning the two will not bind. So what you can do is, just take a wire brush and clean it up, or you can take your snips / pliers and just kind of like rub off the stuff from the center. It should come off in nice chunks. I'd be careful with this technique that I'm using because you don't want to squeeze too hard. But yeah, once it's mostly deburred and it's not blocking any gas, that should be good to go. Same goes for your tip. This tip is old, but you can replace them. They just unscrew. And then you can take this and take a steel brush to it as well to clean it off. When you're welding, sometimes you will miss. Sometimes, since it's hard to see in those welding masks, sometimes you will use too much wire. When that happens, we just have these handy snips here. Let's just say I was welding and I got too far away. I can just take my snips and I can cut it to within an inch, but without a centimeter. So roughly there. Somewhere between those two distances. Then I'm ready to go again. If I am too short and this thing is burned all the way to the nozzle, all I have to do is squeeze the trigger, not point it away, point it away from my material like I'm doing now, and it will extend.